John had never expected his first visit to another planet to be like this. He had heard stories of strange worlds, full of amazing creatures and awe-inspiring landscapes, but nothing could have prepared him for the peaceful, yet bizarre world he had just crash-landed on. The ship's engines had sputtered out, leaving him stranded on a foreign planet in the midst of an alien forest. The air smelled fresh, but John couldn't shake the feeling that something was different here. It was morning when he first stumbled across her, a figure standing near the edge of a clearing, observing him with intense curiosity. Her skin shimmered, with a soft, almost glowing light, and her hair flowed like liquid silver down her back. She was tall and lean, with striking features that John had never seen before in any human or alien species he had encountered. Her eyes were large and almond-shaped, reflecting a deep, intelligent gaze. John froze, unsure of what to do next. He was alone, with no weapons and no way to communicate, other than basic hand gestures and the universal language of body posture. He had no idea who or what she was, but the way she looked at him made it clear she wasn't afraid. Instead, she was simply curious. "Human," she said, her voice musical but firm. It was a sound that carried both wonder and confusion. What are you doing here?" John took a cautious step forward, trying his best to maintain a neutral posture, not wanting to provoke any sudden reactions. I'm lost," he stammered, his voice sounding small in the vastness of the forest. "My ship crashed. I don't mean any harm." The alien tilted her head, clearly intrigued. Her gaze dropped to his body, scanning every detail with great attention, making John feel like he was under a microscope. She took a few steps closer, her movements graceful and fluid, like she was floating rather than walking. John had no idea how to respond. He tried again. "I'm human," he explained, trying to make the words sound less strange. "I'm from Earth." "Earth?" she repeated, her brow furrowing. "You come from a place called Earth. What is Earth?" John opened his mouth to answer but stopped. Himself. How could he explain Earth in a way that made sense to someone who had never even heard of it? "It's a planet, a long way from here." The alien woman seemed to contemplate this, her fingers twitching as if eager to learn more. "And you are alone?" "Yes," John replied. "The others, they're gone. My crew is gone." She studied him for a moment longer before finally speaking. Again. "I don't understand." John nodded, feeling the weight of loneliness pressing down on him. He had always dreamed of being an explorer, but now that he was here, stranded on a strange world with no way back home, it was starting to feel more like a nightmare than an adventure. Then, the alien did something that completely threw John off guard. Without warning, she stepped closer and bent down to inspect his body more closely. John felt his heart skip a beat as she crouched in front of him, her eyes locked on something that he hadn't expected to be of interest. She was staring intently at his waist, where his clothes fit snugly around his lower body. The alien tilted her head again, her curiosity growing even more apparent. "Human," she said, her voice taking on an inquisitive tone. "What is this?" She pointed to his lower abdomen, her finger hovering just a few inches away from his body. John's face turned a shade of red. He glanced down at his waist, realizing exactly what she was referring to. He tried to move back, but she quickly raised a hand, signaling for him to stay still. "What is this hard thing hanging between your legs?" she asked bluntly, her eyes wide with curiosity. "May I touch it?" John's eyes widened in shock. He had no idea how to respond. It wasn't every day that an alien woman who had never seen a human before asked such an intimate and personal question. His mind raced, trying to make sense of what was happening. Was this some kind of cultural misunderstanding? Did she not understand the concept of personal boundaries? He cleared his throat, feeling awkward and unsure of what to do. That's not something you can just touch," he muttered, his voice barely audible. "It's personal." The alien woman didn't seem to understand the hesitation in his words. She reached out, her fingers brushing against his clothing, trying to get a better look at what she had referred to as the hard thing. John jumped back in surprise, instinctively holding up his hands as if to shield himself. "Wait," he exclaimed. "You can't just touch it, it's not something you should be grabbing at." The alien woman seemed puzzled. She stepped back, her head tilting to the side as she observed him, her expression one of genuine confusion. "Why?" she asked, her voice still calm but filled with curiosity. "It is a part of you. Why can't I touch it?" John struggled to find the right words. How could he explain something so basic, yet so difficult to someone who had never experienced it? He thought about his upbringing, the lessons about boundaries, personal space, and respect. But none of that seemed to apply here. This wasn't a conversation he had ever imagined having, especially with an alien from another world. "It's something humans don't just let others touch," John explained, trying to be as gentle as possible. "We have rules about personal space, you know? It's part of our, culture." The alien still didn't seem to understand. Her brow furrowed as she looked him over once again, seemingly searching for an answer that made sense to her. John sighed, realizing that he was going to have to be more direct. "I'm sorry," he said, "but we don't just share our bodies like that. It's private." She paused, her expression softening. For a moment, John thought she might understand, but instead, she gave him a small, almost apologetic smile. "Your species is strange," she said, her tone light and amused. "But I will respect your rule, for now." John let out a breath he didn't realize he had been holding. "Thank you." The alien woman stood up, stepping back and giving him some space. She then looked around the forest, her eyes scanning the horizon as if contemplating something. John watched her, still feeling slightly bewildered by the entire interaction. He had never been this close to an alien before, let alone have such a personal conversation. After a long moment of silence, she finally spoke again. "Can you teach me more about you, human?" she asked softly. "About your body, your species, your ways? There is much I don't understand." John glanced at her, still processing the strange events of the past few minutes. Despite the initial shock, there was something about this alien woman's curiosity that intrigued him. Maybe, just maybe, this strange encounter could lead to something more than just confusion. "Yeah," he said with a small smile. "I think I can teach you a few things." And so, despite the awkwardness and misunderstandings, the two of them stood there, in the quiet of the alien forest, on the edge of something neither of them could have predicted. After the strange encounter in the forest, John and Lyra spent more time together. The initial awkwardness had faded, replaced by an uneasy understanding. They had both learned more about each other in those first few hours than either could have imagined. As the sun began to set, painting the sky with soft hues of orange and purple, John found himself at the edge of the clearing where he had first met Lyra. He was sitting on a large, smooth rock, gazing up at the stars, wondering if he would ever make it back to Earth. Lyra appeared from the shadows, as graceful and quiet as ever. Her shimmering skin seemed to blend with the night, and her large eyes glowed faintly, reflecting the stars above. She had been watching him from a distance, studying him in the way only someone as curious as she could. "Human," Lyra said softly, her voice almost a whisper. "I've been thinking about what you said, about your body, and how it's different from mine." John turned to face her, his gaze meeting hers. "Yeah, I didn't mean to make things weird," he said with a sheepish smile. "It's just, I didn't expect you to ask about such personal stuff right away." Lyra nodded as if considering his words carefully. "I don't understand," she admitted. "Where I come from, we have no need for such things. We do not feel the need to distinguish ourselves based on our bodies. Our emotions, our thoughts, are what matter most." John was surprised. "Wait, so you don't have differences like humans do?" he asked. "No physical features like that?" She shook her head. "No, we are all similar in appearance. We have no need for what you call gender. and we do not have the same physical boundaries that you do. I was curious because, well, it's so different from what I know. John couldn't help but laugh a little. Yeah, I guess it must be strange to see something so personal. But I think it's not just about the physical stuff. I mean, what makes us human is our emotions, our experiences, our connections to others. It's not just about what's on the outside. Lyra stepped closer, sitting down on the ground next to him. So you say it's the connection that matters more than the body? That's interesting. Where I come from, we value intelligence, knowledge, emotions, feelings. They are secondary. John could see that Lyra was still trying to process everything he had explained. I get that, he said. In some ways, it makes sense. But I think emotions are what make life worth living. They give everything meaning. Lyra was silent for a long time, her eyes reflecting the stars above as she thought. I want to understand, she said finally. I want to learn about your feelings. What makes you feel joy, sadness, love, fear? We don't experience those things the way you do. How? As the days passed, John and Lyra's conversations deepened. What began as a mere exchange of words had slowly transformed into something far more profound. They had moved beyond the basic questions about Earth and Lyra's world. And now, they were exploring the complexities of their lives, emotions, and desires. John had never expected to form such a connection with an alien, yet here he was, learning things about himself he never knew before. It was a quiet evening when the true depth of their bond began to show itself. John had found a small stream, on the edge of the forest where the water ran clear and cool, perfect for drinking. He had been sitting by the water, staring at the sky, when Lyra approached him, her steps almost silent on the soft earth. Human, she said, her voice carrying a gentle tone. I've been thinking about our last conversation, about emotions and connections. I'm still not fully sure of how to understand them, but I think I'm beginning to see why they're so important to you. John turned his head, surprised by the sincerity in her voice. Yeah? He asked, a smile forming on his lips. I think it's one of the hardest things to explain. Emotions shape everything we do, but they're not always easy to grasp. Lyra sat down beside him, her legs tucked beneath her as she gazed at the stream. It's like the way you spoke about love. I don't fully understand it, but it's something I think I want to experience, to feel that connection. You make it sound like it's the most important part of being human. John shifted, his position turning slightly toward her. It is, he said softly, but it's not always easy. Love can be beautiful, but it's also complicated. It's not always about happy moments. Sometimes it's about sacrifice, understanding, and patience. We don't always get it right. Lyra nodded slowly, her eyes reflecting the dimming light of the evening. I think I'm starting to understand. Emotions are not just about what we feel, but about how we respond to others. It's not enough to just feel something. We have to act on it, we have to share it, express it. John was impressed by her ability to grasp such complex ideas. It took humans a lifetime to fully understand the meaning of love and emotions, but Lyra, an alien from another world, seemed to be learning it in mere days. Exactly, John said. It's all about how we show it. It's the little things, you know. A smile, a hug, a kind word when someone needs it most. Those things matter more than anything. There was a long pause as Lyra reflected on his words. She looked at him, studying his face as though trying to find some deeper meaning in his expression. Finally, she spoke again, her voice soft yet filled with a quiet determination. I think I want to understand you more. I want to understand what makes humans so special. I've never met anyone like you before, John. I don't know what it is, but something about you makes me feel like I'm learning something that I've never known. John looked at her, surprised by the depth of her words. He had never thought of himself as anything extraordinary, but in Lyra's eyes he could see something different. She didn't just see him as a human from Earth. She saw him as an individual, with emotions, with thoughts, with dreams. And for the first time in a long while, he felt truly seen. "You're not so different from me, Lyra," John replied, his voice steady. "We may come from different places, but at the end of the day, we're all just trying to figure things out. Maybe that's what makes us alike, our desire to understand, to grow." Lyra smiled, her eyes softening. "I think you're right. It's not about where we come from or what we look like. It's about what we feel and how we choose to act on those feelings." The connection between them had deepened in ways neither could have anticipated. It wasn't just a bond of curiosity anymore. It was something real, something human. John could no longer deny the growing feelings he had for Lyra. Despite her being so different from him, she was no longer just the alien he had stumbled upon in the forest. She was someone he trusted, someone he wanted to know more about. The evening grew colder, Lyra shifted closer to him. She didn't touch him, but her presence was enough to make John feel a sense of warmth he hadn't felt in years. It was as if the loneliness that had plagued him since the crash was slowly being replaced by something more powerful. He wasn't sure if it was love, but it was definitely something he couldn't ignore. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the stars twinkle above them. John could feel the weight of their conversation settling in his heart, and he realized something. Lyra wasn't just trying to understand his emotions, she was beginning to understand herself through him. They were both on a journey of discovery, but now they weren't alone. The next day, John woke up early as he always did. He had become accustomed to the quiet mornings on this alien world. Lyra was already awake, sitting by the edge of the stream, her legs crossed beneath her. She was staring out at the water, lost in thought. John walked over to her, a quiet smile on his face. "Morning," he said softly. Lyra looked up and smiled back, her eyes bright with a quiet joy. "Good morning, John. I've been thinking more about what we discussed last night, about emotions and connections. I think I'm starting to see it. I don't know if I fully understand everything, but I'm learning." John sat down beside her, crossing his legs in the grass. "You're a quick learner," he said with a grin. "I'm glad to have you as my teacher." Lyra chuckled softly, a sound that warmed John's heart. "I think you're the one teaching me, more than you realize." For the rest of the day, they continued their exploration of the planet. Lyra showed John the hidden beauty of her world, the towering trees that seemed to touch the sky, the flowers that glowed softly in the moonlight, and the peaceful animals that roamed the land. They shared stories, laughs, and moments of quiet reflection, their connection growing stronger with each passing hour. But as the day drew to a close and they sat around a small fire, Lyra spoke again, her tone serious. "John, I know I still have much to learn about you and your kind, but I also want to understand something deeper, something that I don't know if I can explain, but I feel it when I'm near you. This connection we have, it's not just curiosity anymore, is it?" John hesitated for a moment, unsure of how to respond. "I don't know," he said honestly, "but I think you're right. It's more than curiosity. And I don't know what it means yet, but I think I'm glad it's happening." Lyra nodded, a thoughtful expression crossing her face. "Maybe it's the beginning of something new," she said quietly. "Something I've never known before." John looked at her, meeting her gaze. There was no need for more words. They both knew that what they had shared so far was something rare, something precious. Neither of them could predict what the future held, but in that moment, they both felt that they were no longer just two strangers from different worlds. They were something more. And for the first time since his crash, John felt that maybe, just maybe, he had found something worth staying for. The days on the alien world had been peaceful, yet not without their challenges. As John and Lyra spent more time together, they began to face the reality of their differences, not just in their physical forms, but in their cultures, beliefs, and ways of life. While they had grown closer emotionally, there was still much they didn't understand about each other. These differences sometimes led to moments of tension, One morning, as they walked through a meadow filled with vibrant flowers that shimmered in the sunlight, John noticed something in Lyra's demeanor that was different. She had been quiet, her usual curiosity replaced by an almost unreadable expression. Her steps were slow, as if her mind were elsewhere. "Lyra?" John asked, his voice gentle. "Is everything okay?" She glanced at him, then quickly looked away. "I am thinking," she said softly. "Thinking about your world, about your people, about your emotions." John stopped walking and turned to face her. He could sense something was bothering her. "What about them?" Lyra hesitated before speaking, her voice tinged with uncertainty. "I have been learning from you, John. I have tried to understand what makes humans so different from us, but sometimes I wonder if I truly understand." John felt a slight pang in his chest. "What do you mean?" Lyra's eyes met his, but there was a distance in her gaze. "You have spoken about love, about fear, about joy. You have shown me how important these things are, but you also told me that humans are often afraid to show their feelings. You hide your emotions even from those you care about. I don't understand why." John's stomach tightened. This was the conversation he had been avoiding. "It's not that we want to hide our feelings," he said, his voice low. "It's just, sometimes we don't know how to share them. It's complicated. We're afraid of being hurt. We're afraid of rejection. And sometimes the things we feel are too much to put into words." Lyra stepped closer, her expression softening. "But if emotions are so important to you, why do you hold back? Why do you pretend to be something you're not? Why not show your true self?" John looked down at the ground, searching for the right words. "It's just the way humans are, I guess. We've built our societies around rules, rules that tell us when and where it's okay to express ourselves. But sometimes those rules get in the way. We don't always know how to break them." Lyra was quiet for a long moment, her gaze searching his face. "It seems so strange," she said. "Where I come from, there are no rules like that. Emotions are not something to be." The days on the alien planet grew warmer, and John began to feel a sense of routine settling into his life. He had learned to adjust to the strange rhythms of the planet, the daily sounds of wildlife, and the peaceful silence that surrounded him in the forests and meadows. Life was slower here, quieter, and for the first time in a long while, John found himself beginning to enjoy it. But despite the peaceful environment, there was an undercurrent of tension between him and Lyra. While their connection had deepened, there were still moments when the differences in their cultures and emotions created distance. John could see the confusion in Lyra's eyes at times, especially when she tried to understand the complexity of human emotions. She wanted so badly to connect, but the walls John had built were harder to break than either of them had anticipated. One afternoon, they sat beside the same stream where they had spent so much time together in the past. The sun was setting, casting a golden glow over the water's surface. Lyra was watching the water flow, her mind clearly elsewhere. John noticed the shift in her mood. She had been distant all day, her usual curiosity replaced by an unreadable silence. He knew something was on her mind. "Lyra," he began, his voice gentle but concerned. "What's bothering you? You've been quiet today." She didn't immediately respond, and John felt a knot form in his stomach. Had he done something wrong? He had been trying his best to be open with her, but maybe he had said something that made her uncomfortable. I do not understand you, John," Lyra said finally, her voice low and uncertain. "I have been trying, I truly have, but I still do not know how to bridge this gap between us." John frowned, unsure of what she meant. "What gap?" he asked. "We're talking, aren't we? I've been open with you, at least as much as I can. What more do you want from me?" Lyra's gaze turned to him, her eyes filled with a mix of sadness and frustration. "It's not about talking, John, it's about feeling. You've shown me your emotions, but you have not let me fully in. You hold back. You are afraid to trust me." John's heart sank. She was right. He had been holding back, still keeping a part of himself locked away. Despite how much he had opened up to her, the fear was still there, lingering like a shadow in the back of his mind. "I don't know how to let you in," John admitted, his voice barely a whisper. "I want to, Lyra, I want to trust you, but every time I get close I pull away. I don't know what's wrong with me." Lyra looked at him, her eyes filled with a deep, empathetic understanding. She reached out and gently placed her hand on his, her touch warm and comforting. "There is nothing wrong with you," she said softly. "You have been alone for so long, John. You have built walls to protect yourself. But you do not have to do this alone anymore. You have me, and I want to help you break down those walls." John swallowed hard, feeling the lump in his throat. Lyra's words meant more to him than she could ever know. But could he really trust her enough to let her in? Could he allow himself to be vulnerable after so many years of keeping everything inside? "I don't know if I can," he said quietly, his voice cracking. "I'm scared. Scared of getting hurt. Scared of letting someone in only to be disappointed." Lyra squeezed his hand, her grip firm yet gentle. "I will never hurt you, John," she said with unwavering certainty. "I understand your fear, but you cannot live in fear forever. You cannot build your life around what might happen. You must trust. You must trust yourself, and you must trust me." John felt the weight of her words press down on him. He wanted to believe her, wanted to believe that there was a way forward. But the scars of his past, the pain of loss and rejection were still so fresh in his mind. How could he let go of the fear that had been a part of him for so long? I don't know how to trust again," John said, his voice barely a whisper. "I've been hurt too many times. I don't want to go through that again." Lyra didn't respond right away. Instead, she sat quietly beside him, her hand still resting on his. The silence stretched between them, but it was different from the silence of the past. It was filled with understanding, with a shared hope that they could find a way forward together. Finally, Lyra spoke again, her voice soft but full of determination. "Trust is not something that happens all at once," she said. "It takes time. It takes patience. But you must start somewhere. If you want to truly understand what it means to love, to be loved, you must be willing to take the first step, even if it scares you." John looked at her, his heart heavy with uncertainty. She was asking him to take a leap of faith, to trust in something he couldn't fully comprehend. It felt impossible. Yet something deep inside him told him that maybe, just maybe, it was worth trying. "I'm scared, Lyra," John admitted, his voice trembling. "I'm scared of trusting you, of letting go of everything I've held on to for so long. I don't know if I'm strong enough." Lyra's expression softened and she gently cupped his face in her hands. "You are stronger than you realize, John, and you are not alone in this. I am here with you, always." The tenderness in her touch, the sincerity in her words, broke through the walls John had built around his heart. For the first time in years, he felt the weight of his fear begin to lift. He wasn't alone anymore. He had someone who cared about him, someone who wanted to help him heal. "I want to try," John said, his voice steady for the first time. "I want to try to trust you. I want to let you in." Lyra smiled, a soft, warm smile that made John's heart race. "Then we will take it one step at a time, together." For the first time since his crash, John felt a glimmer of hope. It wasn't a solution and it wasn't a guarantee, but it was a start. With Lyra by his side, he knew that maybe, just maybe, he could begin to heal, to trust again, and to open his heart to something new. The days on the alien planet continued to pass, but for John, everything felt different now. The walls he had built for so long had started to crumble piece by piece. He was learning to trust, to open up, and to feel again. It wasn't easy. There were still moments of fear, moments when the old habits of closing himself off crept back into his mind. But with Lyra by his side, he was finding the courage to push through. It was another quiet evening by the stream, where they had shared so many conversations and moments of reflection. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. John sat beside Lyra, feeling a sense of peace he had not known in years. "Do you ever miss home?" Lyra asked softly, breaking the silence. John looked at her, surprised by the question. It was something he hadn't thought about in a long time. "Yeah," he said, his voice quiet. "I miss Earth. I miss the people, the places, the feeling of being home. But I think I've learned something since I got here." Lyra turned to him, her eyes filled with curiosity. "What have you learned?" John took a deep breath, looking out at the stream as it flowed gently past them. "I've learned that home isn't just a place. It's the people you share it with. It's the connections you make. I think I've found something here. Something that feels like home." Lyra smiled, her expression soft and knowing. "I'm glad," she said. "I think I've found something here too." John turned to look at her, his heart swelling with gratitude. "I don't know what I would have done without you, Lyra," he said, his voice filled with sincerity. "You've helped me in ways I can't even explain. You've shown me what it means to trust, to feel, to be human again." Lyra reached out and gently took his hand, her touch warm and reassuring. "And you've shown me what it means to truly connect with someone, to share, to listen, to care. You have helped me understand what it means to be alive in ways I never could before." For a long moment they sat there together, their hands intertwined, watching the water flow past them. The world around them seemed to fade away, leaving just the two of them in the quiet stillness of the evening. John realized that despite everything that had happened, the crash, the fear, the isolation, he had found something worth fighting for. He had found someone who saw him for who he truly was, someone who cared for him without judgment or expectation. And for the first time in a long time, he felt like he could finally let go of the past and look toward the future. "Lyra," John said softly, his voice filled with emotion, "I think I'm ready. I'm ready to trust you completely. I'm ready to be open, to share everything with you." Lyra's eyes shone with a mixture of warmth and pride. "I'm proud of you, John," she said, her voice filled with tenderness. "You've come so far, and I will always be here by your side, no matter what." As the night sky grew darker, they stood up, their hands still clasped together. The stars above were beginning to twinkle, and the world seemed to be holding its breath, waiting for something beautiful to happen. John felt a sense of calm wash over him. For the first time since his arrival on this alien world, he felt like he had truly found a place for himself. "I think we should keep moving forward," John said, his voice filled with determination. "I think we should explore this world, explore our connection, and see where it takes us. Together." Lyra nodded, her expression serious yet full of hope. "Yes," she said simply. "Together." And so, hand in hand, they began to walk along the edge of the stream, the soft sounds of the water guiding their steps. The path ahead was uncertain, but, for the first time, John felt like he was no longer walking alone. He had found someone who cared for him, someone who saw the real him and